On a crisp September night in 2014, 18-year-old Hannah Graham stumbled through the streets of Charlottesville, Virginia, her laughter fading into the cool autumn air. A vibrant college student, she was out with friends, enjoying the lively buzz of the downtown pedestrian mall. But as the clock ticked past midnight, her texts grew frantic. "I'm lost," she typed to a friend, her words tinged with confusion. Hours later, a passerby overheard her voice, sharp with defiance. "I'm not getting in the car with you." Then, silence. Hannah vanished into the night, leaving behind a trail of questions that would haunt a community and spark a desperate search. Who was the man she was last seen with? What happened in those fleeting moments? If you're drawn to true crime, to unraveling the mysteries of cases that grip the heart, this story will pull you in, and leave you questioning how well we truly know the people around us. Background and setup: Hannah Elizabeth Graham was a bright spark, the kind of person who lit up every room she entered. Born in England to John and Sue Graham, she moved with her family to Fairfax County, Virginia, at the age of 5. They settled in the charming Stratford Landing neighborhood, a place once owned by George Washington, steeped in history and community. Hannah, the younger sister to James, grew up in a loving, stable home. She was smart, athletic, and musically gifted, with a smile that seemed to promise a boundless future. As a second-year student at the University of Virginia, she was carving her path, majoring in global development studies and dreaming big. Her friends described her as someone who radiated positivity, always ready with a laugh or a kind word. But on the night of September 12, 2014, that light would be dimmed by a darkness no one saw coming. Charlottesville, a picturesque college town nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains, was known for its vibrant student life and historic charm. The downtown pedestrian mall, a bustling strip of restaurants and bars, was a favorite spot for University of Virginia students. On that fateful Friday night, Hannah left her apartment at the Grand Mark complex around 9:30 p.m. to meet friends. The plan was simple. Drinks at Fig, a local restaurant, followed by a party at Camden Plaza Apartments on 14th Street. It was the kind of night any college student might look forward to, full of laughter, music, and carefree moments. But as the evening wore on, Hannah's behavior shifted. She drank heavily, and by midnight, she wasn't feeling well. A friend offered to walk her home, but Hannah, confident in the short distance to her apartment, declined. Instead of heading home, she wandered in the opposite direction, toward the Tempo restaurant, several blocks away. Meanwhile, another figure was moving through the same streets. Jesse Leroy Matthew Jr., a 32-year-old part-time taxi driver and hospital orderly, was no stranger to Charlottesville. Known to some as LJ, he was a towering man, nearly 6 feet tall, over 260 pounds, with dreadlocks and a goatee. On the surface, he seemed unremarkable, even likable. Friends and former girlfriends described him as charming, soft-spoken, and kind-hearted. He'd grown up in poverty, faced bullying for a stutter, and struggled with learning disabilities, but he'd earned a football scholarship to Liberty University. Yet, beneath this facade, there were whispers of a darker side. Matthew had a history of troubling behavior, allegations of sexual assault at 2 universities, incidents that forced him to leave both schools. By 2014, he was bouncing between jobs, driving a taxi and working in a hospital operating room, blending seamlessly into the fabric of the town. That night, as he bar-hopped through downtown, he made crude advances toward women, crossing lines that left them uneasy. Little did they know, his path was about to collide with Hannah's. The crime as midnight gave way to the early hours of September 13, 2014. Hannah's steps grew unsteady. Surveillance footage captured her weaving past businesses along the downtown mall, her movements erratic, as if disoriented by the alcohol coursing through her system. At 12:56 a.m., she sent a text to a friend. "I'm lost and I don't feel well." Her words were a red flag, a sign that something was terribly wrong. Minutes later, another text, even more cryptic. "I got stuck down though." It made no sense, a garbled message that hinted at her confusion. By 1 a.m., she was near the Tempo restaurant, a place pulsing with late-night energy. That's when Jesse Matthews spotted her. The surveillance cameras told a chilling story. Matthew, who had been lurking in the shadows, watched Hannah pass by. He didn't approach her immediately. Instead, he waited, calculating. Then, he turned and followed her. Hannah, intoxicated and vulnerable, didn't notice the danger closing in. Matthew caught up to her, slipping an arm around her shoulders as they walked toward Tempo. To an onlooker, they might have seemed like friends, but the truth was far more sinister. Inside the restaurant, Matthew bought 2 drinks. Some reports suggest Hannah stayed outside, while others place her at a table, but no one disputes what came next. She was never seen alive again after leaving with him. Somewhere in those early morning hours, Hannah's fate was sealed. A passerby later recalled hearing her voice, sharp and resolute. "I'm not getting in the car with you." It was a fleeting moment of defiance, a last stand against a predator. But it wasn't enough. Matthew, with his imposing size and familiarity with the area, overpowered her. What happened next remains shrouded in mystery, but the evidence points to a brutal act of violence. Hannah, a young woman with a future full of promise, was gone, her life snuffed out in a matter of moments. Investigation. By September 14, Hannah's friends were frantic. She hadn't returned to her apartment, and her phone was off. This wasn't like her, she was responsible, always checking in. They reported her missing, and the Charlottesville Police Department sprang into action. The case struck a nerve in a town already scarred by the disappearances of other young women, including Morgan Dana Harrington, a Virginia Tech student who vanished in 2009. State and federal law enforcement joined the effort, and the search for Hannah became a national story. Volunteers scoured the city, and a candlelight vigil drew hundreds, all united in their hope to bring her home. Investigators pieced together Hannah's movements using surveillance footage from the downtown mall. The grainy videos showed her walking alone, then with a man later identified as Jesse Matthew. The footage was damning. Matthew's arm around her, guiding her toward Tempo, his intentions unclear but ominous. Detectives learned that Matthew had been bar hopping that night, making unwanted advances toward women, his behavior growing increasingly aggressive. Witnesses described him as pushy, even predatory, and the puzzle began to take shape. On September 19, police obtained a search warrant for Matthew's apartment. Inside, they found a cell phone with a missing SIM card, men's shorts with DNA evidence, and traces of Hannah's DNA on the passenger door of his orange Chrysler Sebring. A second warrant yielded more: bedding, a toothbrush, hair samples, a wallet, and a towel with a reddish-brown stain. A bloodhound unit picked up Hannah's scent at the rear entrance of Matthew's apartment, inside his car, and near a dumpster. The evidence was mounting, but Matthew wasn't talking. On September 20, he showed up at the police station, asked for a lawyer, and then fled at high speed, eluding officers in a desperate bid to escape. A nationwide manhunt ensued. Matthew, now a wanted man, had withdrawn most of his money and obtained a new driver's license. His family pleaded with him to cooperate, but he was on the run. On September 24, a tip came from an unlikely place: a beach in Galveston, Texas. A passerby recognized Matthew from news reports and called 911. Police found him camping in a tent, using his sister's blue Nissan. He was arrested and extradited back to Virginia, where he was charged with abduction with intent to defile. The reward for information leading to Hannah's recovery had climbed to $100,000, but hope was fading. On October 18, a grim discovery changed everything. Skeletal remains were found in a densely wooded area off Old Lynchburg Road in Albemarle County, behind a vacant residence. Nearby, investigators found a crop top and jeans, eerily similar to what Hannah had been wearing, one leg of the pants turned inside out. A watch was also recovered, but her undergarments, shoes, and phone were missing. A local resident reported seeing Matthew's car backed into an access road near the site on the morning of September 13. As a taxi driver, Matthew knew the area's hidden corners, making it the perfect place to conceal a crime. The remains were sent to Dr. Kevin Whaley, the chief medical examiner in Richmond. The autopsy confirmed the worst. The remains were Hannah Graham's, and her death was ruled a homicide, likely caused by strangulation or suffocation. 2 nasal fractures, sustained around the time of death, pointed to a violent struggle. But the investigation uncovered an even more chilling connection. DNA evidence linked Matthew not only to Hannah's murder but also to the 2009 murder of Morgan Harrington, whose remains were found just 6 miles away on a remote farm. Forensic evidence from Morgan's shirt matched Matthew's DNA, and, shockingly, it also tied him to a 2005 rape in Fairfax County. 3 women, 3 brutal crimes, all connected by one man. Outcome and aftermath. On February 10, 2015. Jesse Matthew was formally charged with Hannah's murder, along with abduction with intent to defile. Prosecutors initially sought the death penalty, but Matthew's defense team proposed a plea deal. In exchange for confessing to the murders of both Hannah Graham and Morgan Harrington, the death penalty was taken off the table. The victims' families, devastated but determined to avoid the trauma of a lengthy trial, agreed. On March 2, 2016, Matthew pleaded guilty to 4 counts: first-degree murder and abduction with intent to defile for both women. Judge David Skell sentenced him to 4 consecutive life terms, with no possibility of parole, early release, or geriatric release. Matthew's mother screamed as the sentence was read, but he remained stoic, quietly asking his attorney to apologize to the families on his behalf. The case left Charlottesville reeling. The community had lost 2 bright young women, and the fear of a serial predator lingered. Hannah's parents, John and Sue, channeled their grief into advocacy, pushing for expanded DNA collection for misdemeanor convictions. They believed that if Matthew's DNA had been collected after his 2010 trespassing conviction, Hannah might still be alive. Their efforts paid off in June 2018, when Governor Ralph Northam signed bills expanding Virginia's DNA database, a legacy that could prevent future tragedies. Morgan Harrington's mother, Gil, founded Help Save the Next Girl, a nonprofit dedicated to educating young women about predatory dangers. Both families established scholarships in their daughters' names, ensuring their legacies lived on. Hannah's friends and the University of Virginia community honored her with a memorial softball tournament, celebrating her love for the sport. In December 2020, Matthew was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and transferred to a Richmond hospital under tight security. As of December 2022, he was still alive, though no further updates on his health have been released. Gil Harrington, reflecting on his condition, said, "We are not invested in retribution. What we wanted was to have Jesse Matthew, the back-to-school killer, stopped. This has been accomplished." Closing reflection. The story of Hannah Graham and Morgan Harrington is a stark reminder of the fragility of safety, even in a close-knit college town. 2 young women, full of promise, were taken by a man who hid his darkness behind a charming facade. Their deaths exposed the chilling reality that predators can walk among us, blending into everyday life until the moment they strike. Yet, from this tragedy emerged resilience, families who turned pain into purpose, communities that rallied together, and laws that changed to protect others. As we reflect on Hannah and Morgan, we're left with a haunting question. How many more lives might have been saved if the system had caught Jesse Matthews sooner? Their stories urge us to stay vigilant, to listen to the whispers of instinct, and to honor the light of those we've lost by working to prevent the next tragedy.